Let's talk a little bit about the lower Yuba River, and I have PJ Bock. He's with Bock Fly Fishing. He is our guy on the Yuba and what's going on up in that area. How you doing, PJ?
Hey, Rick, how's it going? I'm not doing too bad. How about yourself?
I'm doing great and looking forward to a good report. So what's going on up there on the Yuba? I know we're here in the right here in the middle of the heat here as the summer kind of is right there in the center of what's going on. What's going on up there in the Yuba as we've gotten this hot?
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about the Yuba is that they have a phenomenal grasshopper season, and that's really that late summer, dog days of summer where you think it's too hot to be out, but you go out and wade and it's not so hot anymore. So it's a good time to get out in the water and cool off and catch a few fish while you're at it. And the Yuba is a wonderful place to do it. Really mid-July through end of August. There's a few weeks that'll be better than others, but that time frame is really, I think, prime time for grasshoppers. And so I'm using big old foamy grasshoppers, stuff that just sits right on top of the water. And my favorite technique, I'm sure you've heard me mention it a few times in my videos, is hopper dropper or a dry dropper on the Yuba. And being that these fish like to hang out near the banks, the hopper tends to work pretty well because you're fishing those things really tight to the banks. I mean, if you hit a tree and drag it off the tree into the water, that's exactly what a grasshopper would do. So fishing real close to the banks, really tight to the banks is kind of conductive to the Yuba, and that's really also really conductive to the grasshopper hatch.
So when you're fishing that dry dropper, maybe kind of we don't have it right in front of us here to explain it, but so you have that hopper that you've tied on, and it's kind of your indicator and your top fly. What are you doing in terms of your rig there? So my strategy is to start with about 18 inches. That's kind of more my go-to. Obviously, everybody can choose their own depth, and I shorten it up and change it quite a bit depending on, if it's getting snagged up on the bottom, I probably want to shorten it up quite a bit. If I know that it's just sitting right below the fly and you're fishing in this deep of 4 feet of water, you might want to deepen it up a little bit more. So I tend to start off with 18 and just kind of work around from there, but that's kind of my go-to. Okay. Do you kind of actually, so then almost run to run, you're kind of changing depths as well, right? Because I mean, if you obviously, if you're walking through and walking away and you've got, a foot of water and then you got 4 feet. Yeah.
So, like you were saying, I use the grasshopper or the dry fly in this case, any dry fly for a hopper dropper. I use it as an indicator as well. And so if you're using it as an indicator, you really can get those bugs down into the bottom of the water column. And so if you're fishing 4 feet of water, why not put a 4-foot dropper on there and see if you can get it down in the bottom? It's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same tactic as everybody would think of as a dropper hopper or a hopper dropper, because you think the fish would see that fly and it entices them and they see that other fly behind it just a little bit easier. But this way you're kind of fishing the best of both worlds. You're fishing a dry and then you're fishing a nymph down in the bottom. And like I said, I'll switch it up. I might fish a 4-foot run with 12 inches below for a few drifts, and then I might add some depth to it and make it 4 feet just to see where in the water column the fish are going to be taking my stuff at.
Interesting. Okay, so there's sort of two different tactics are going to be one where it's the kind of an attractor is what your grasshopper is, and they're either going to hit it or they're going to say, oh, okay, maybe not, and I'm going to the midge or whatever you've got below it. Yeah, and then or actually make it just like you would an indicator. What are you using on the subsurface there generally on that hopper dropper?
So if you're using a pretty big hopper, you can get away with some pretty big flies. So sometimes if you use an unweighted like rubber legs, it's something like that, or just a small little mayfly too. A green caddis or a white caddis would work pretty well, or cinnamon caddis. In the summertime, I'm thinking PMDs. So I'm thinking, small yellow mayflies, small brown mayflies, size 18s and 20s.
Okay.
And so I think, I tend to go with a lot of European style flies too. So like a Perdigon, Spanish Perdigon jig would work pretty well up there. One of my favorites is
oh shoot, it's called a Rainbow Warrior. That's one of my favorites for up there. So I'll put that on a dropper and see if I can hook into some fish that way too.
And then PJ, oh, go ahead.
Euro nymphing is never a bad option on the Yuba. You know, I mean, if you're not catching anything on the dries, then swap up and bust out the Euro rod and see if you can dredge those deep pools at the end of the runs or at the head of the runs and see where the fish are. Just watch out for reds this time of year if you're out there waiting. There is some spring salmon and some fall salmon that will be starting to make their reds right around now. So make sure you're really watching your step, and if you see any areas with cleared off rocks, walk around them. Don't go through it.
Perfect. Okay. PJ, and real quick, can you talk I mean, you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but real briefly about fish handling kind of in these hotter periods of times, and you know, the importance of how you handle the fish to reduce mortality and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So one of my, I love talking about this stuff actually. Keep the fish wet. Don't get them out of the water. If you have to handle them, make sure they're in the net when you're handling them, and make sure the fish is wet. You know, if you do have to take it out of the water, make sure he's dripping. If he stops dripping, get him back in the water. A good rule of thumb just year round for landing fish and dehooking fish is hold your breath when you're handling. If you are out of breath, you've been handling them too long. 10 seconds is too long. So if you can't hold your breath, then the fish can't hold its breath either.
So when you're struggling with it, and obviously sometimes people got that hook in there and they're struggling with it, hopefully they're using barbless, but a lot of times it can be a little bit of struggle. So just constantly keep going back in, keep them wet while you're dealing.
Keep their body in the water and you know, just pull their head out when you need to. A lot of times, you know, I have when I'm wading and fishing, I have a net that actually I put floatant around the outside of the net, so it floats, and I can literally float my net with a fish in it, and so now I know my fish won't swim away, and I can get my hands in the water, and my net's strapped to my body, so it's not going to float away either.
Yeah, perfect. All right, great idea. And so you got little area to handle little platform to be able to say, okay, now it's confined and I can get deal what I got to deal with and release. Right. Okay, perfect. Great stuff. Great report. Appreciate it. PJ, real quick, give us some information to get a hold of you.
So the best way to get a hold of me is is either my website at bockflyfishing.com. You can also find me on Facebook or Instagram, or you can find me, you find my phone number on my website, and that's the best way to get a hold of me is text me or call me from the number you find on my website.
All right, perfect. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it, PJ.
Yeah,
we'll put that website here in the post so that you can get a hold of PJ. Very knowledgeable on the area, both on the lower Yuba as well as some other rivers up in that area, and knows how to put you onto fish. So go ahead and get in contact with him. We appreciate the report and the information there as we get into these, the dog days of summer here, but some really good fishing still to be had with some of those really good tips. So appreciate that. Appreciate the report, and we'll see you right here next time on the Backcast.